So it's been half a decade and I'm finally making a video about my skinning process for Cosmic Break. Now, if you put tons of time towards your skins, they could be incredible looking, but my method is get the best quality in the shortest amount of time, because I don't hit CB just to skin. I do want to play the game, of course. So one of the first things you want to do is get a clear picture of what you want your outcome to be and know the limitations of the texture on your robot. Right here we're working with Connie Sheriff, and we're going to do a Clint Eastwood mixed with like a girly cowboy kind of theme. The reason why I'm running 800 by 600 in windowed mode is so that I can grab the UV maps off the skins. My first steps whenever I'm skinning is create a new folder in my skins batch folder where I keep all my skin, and organize in such a way where there's the base set, then there's the custom set. I will go through and save all the pictures that I'm going to need, and then I get the UV maps and overlay them on Photoshop at 33% opacity. Now the best thing you can do is save right after you do this, so you have your groundwork already set. That way you don't have to go halfway through and then wonder if you saved, and then all of a sudden everything crashes, CB freezes up like it usually does, and then your Photoshop seizes up and you lose that, and then there goes who knows how many hours of skinning. So learn from my mistakes, save right away. I do that here, but I'm not always that smart. The first place I like to start with is the eyes, because I'm experienced with working with eyes from drawing manga and doing 3D modeling on the side. What I'm trying to do here is pick Connie's hair and then go with a complementary color to make her eyes pop out. I'm using one of my earlier screenshots as sort of a makeshift palette, so I could just blob down some paint, invert it, and then get the color I want, and then go off of that as my basis. The worst part about skinning is not knowing what palette you want to use, but luckily I had a good idea of what colors are going to be involved, and it just became a matter of putting down the details, blurring where you need to blur, and then check in-game, do edits in Photoshop, check again, and then stop whenever you get the desired results. I cannot stress how important it is to keep a constant momentum going when you're skinning. Once you stop for maybe even like 2 minutes, your whole process just falls apart. The best thing you can do is just go part by part and do not stop. Do not let anything stop you, or the skin will take you weeks to finish. One good thing about starting with the eyes is that you can go straight from the eyes into the eyelashes, which then transitions into the eyebrows, right into the skin. What I usually do is I decide the shape of the eyelashes, and then I recolor the eyebrow, get the skin down, and then make the skin a global color across all of the parts. I don't necessarily have to know the layout of the skin on the part quite yet, but having the color there helps keep the color palette global. After that, it's a matter of adding a gradient from light to dark, or dark to light, whichever way you want to look at it, to make the skin seem more rounder and smooth textured. Cosmic Break, generally with the new Moes, do that already, but with like older ones like Ayla, Connie, Primrose, so on and so forth, they're just flat, 3-color skins. There isn't a lot of room to really play with, but if you know what you're doing and you can match up your UV faces on the maps and then match that with what you're coloring, it works out usually. Sometimes the resolution is just too low, you can't do diddly about it, but I got lucky here and I was able to get the texture right on her face and on her neck. Keeping up with the momentum, we go from the face straight into the hat. I already poly edited the ear covers from the hat out, so that was done long ago. Using a brown that I liked from my previous Flare Leon edit, I decided to use that as the brown leather for her hat. I also used the gold from my old edit to use as the gold palette for any metal pieces that are floating around on Connie. Going from the stars all the way out to the lining on the coffins I put on her hat, I just decided brown and gold was the way to go for this one. Keeping up with the feminine theme, I decided to use a pink band around the hat to break up the brown quite a bit. I didn't quite know the palette completely before this moment, but the second I put down the pink, I realized that the palette is going to be brown, gold, pink, and white. With the head all squared away, the next adjacent part is her cape. Now, unfortunately, I wasted a really good opportunity to use an asymmetrical pattern on the cape. That's pretty rare in cosmic break skins, but I wanted to pump this out in less than maybe 3-4 hours, and you know, the asymmetry was just good enough that I could just plop my name on there, and that would be the best that I'm going to use it on this skin. The idea for her cape is going to be using one of Clint Eastwood's older capes from A Few Dollars More, and I was going to adapt it into her cape. It gave me quite a few issues starting out due to the fact that I didn't know how I was going to curve the pattern, and it was really fucking with me. But I calmed down, thought about it, and it worked itself out. So we're just going to do it from the edge, or from the inside out. After I finally got that mess squared away, I decided that I was going to work this entire texture from the bottom up. So I already did the edge for the backside of her cape. Now it's time to do the actual body of most of the back of the cape. That was pretty easy though, since I already had a pattern in mind from the picture that you keep seeing popping up over and over. So that got squared away pretty quickly. But then came the pain in the ass part of trying to match the edging of the back of the cape to the edging on the front of the cape. What I had to do was I had to keep putting down a piece of the texture over and over, and then move it just slightly, like maybe a pixel to the left, pixel down, etc. Check it in game, and then keep doing it until they finally matched up. I did have to add a little tiny extension on the back cape so that everything matched up in the end, but that's usually the toughest part on... okay, I keep saying everything's the toughest part, but that's just a tough part in skinning. Trying to get pieces from different polygons to match up. The best thing you can do is just take it easy, go bit by bit, and then get it squared away. With that said, that piece of advice is going to haunt me way down the road when I discover something. The next piece is the collar on her cape. It was actually pretty easy. The cape collar is also asymmetrical, so I took advantage of that by making it look like it was folded over itself towards the front. I just put down the shadow, the fringe, and the outlines, etc. for the top part, and then worked around it until it blended in with the rest of the cape. When I said have a clear picture of the outcome in your head, I really fucking mean it. Right here, it bites me in the ass because I didn't know how the hell I was going to do the top part of her body. I got stumped so bad I had to look up different sources for ideas. I looked at the picture for Maruru, I looked at different cowgirl pictures. I just sat there and thought, what the hell could I do to the top of the body? I then thought back to my palette. You know, it's white, it's pink, it's brown, etc. So I was like, maybe I'll just edit the vest a little bit, keep it laced together, add a cow print, and that'll break up the silhouette so it's not just, you know, all one color or weird pieces of color here and there. It did end up working out. I kind of wish I did something else, edit it a little more, make it a little more personal, but I was severely stuck. So she's just gonna stick this way. While looking at her body, I looked at her hips and I realized that the stock pattern from her, I guess it would be her panties, I'm not sure what that is underneath her jean shorts, but that just happened to match up with the way the chaps line up on her legs, on the second form of her legs. I'm not using Connie version 1 legs, I'm actually using Connie version 2 because I just happen to like the look a lot more. So So I decided we're gonna go straight into the chaps. Alright, I lied a little bit. Not just the chaps, we're gonna do everything below the belt. I decided that I wanted to use jean shorts instead of her traditional techno panties that all Moe seem to have. I did a light blue first as a base, then I took some of my texture from my Flare Leon skin, plopped that down, matched it up on the body, moved some things around, added some white as tear-off fluff around the, I guess you would call it the cuff of her jean shorts, jean panties, whatever you want to say. And I also added some lines for the pockets and the front inseam. Now, you're never ever going to see this on the bot just sitting there in the lobby, even if you're like right inside the bot. You're never going to see it. But I like doing my skins as thoroughly as I can. Sometimes you find me putting weird details, like I'll put rings on their fingers, or I'll put like an earring on them, and no one's ever really going to see that mid-match, or even in the lobby, but it makes me feel better that I can hide little details like that in there. I did get tripped up by the belt. I originally thought that I was going to do a brown with gold palette all around, but then I realized there was way too much brown on my bot. So then all sorts of things went to hell. I looked at the chaps and I'm like, how the fuck am I going to do the chaps, because then that's too much brown. And then I had to restructure the palette and the color order in my head, like, okay, this goes here, that goes there. That's pretty normal for most of my skins. I'll get like halfway through it and then I'm like, oh fuck, how do I finish this? So don't get discouraged if that happens to you. It happens to literally everyone, unless you're doing a copy skin or you're trying to cosplay a certain character. That is pretty easy, just, you know, paint by numbers at that point. But if you're trying to do an original skin and you get tripped up, don't feel bad, just go with rule number one, calm down and think about it. I had to go over different parts over and over until I found a combination I liked, but I decided that I was going to go with brown under chaps, fake the over boot chap thing that I have going on the lower legs, and then go with the brown boot and gold spurs. I did have to do a lot of bouncing around between the arms and the legs to get everything situated, so I did half the legs, and then I did the arms, and then I went back to the legs, arms, legs, back and forth until I matched everything up. Don't think about the arms too much. They really defy all physics. It's kind of like an underglove with the index and thumb cut so that it's easier to manipulate your trigger and get your thumb around the gun. You know, you see this in like movies and games and so forth. I just kind of like the look. But it's like that kind of glove, and then there's like a cow bounded pink leather thing on top, and then it's just leather up. Don't think too hard about it, it just looks good. That's sometimes also what happens when you're skinning. You just look at it, or I guess the way I would put it is that some Moes like to be only one way. For example, if you look at Bafo, you can only skin her so many ways without it looking super ridiculous. So sometimes you just have to deal with what polygons CS is giving you and just lay whatever you can over top. But I decided I was going to go with mostly leather with some accents. Since I already explained how I was arranging the palette on the entire bot, I decided to gut about maybe half an hour to 45 minutes out of the video and just steer towards the end. I have a tradition where once I paint a bot, I give it a proper name. It's just a thing I do. But besides that, I looked at the bot, I was like, you know, I'm pretty much done. I finished up the booster. I didn't do too much of the booster, I just repainted it brown because it already looks like ammo packs, so I didn't have to do much there. So I painted that out, and here's where something funny happened. I did not know you could edit her guns completely. Back in the day, I guess when I did my first edit, they didn't let you use full color mode on her guns. So I would look at her guns and I'm like, oh, this is her guns, this is my life. But then I was sitting there with Operator and, you know, we're yakking it up, and I was like, hey, you know, I just want to finish up the skin, I got a video to make, etc. And then I go to edit my gun, and I'm like, holy fucking shit, you can edit the whole thing. I fucking creamed. I had no idea. Then, here's a problem. It only gave me half the polygons. So what I had to do was, I had to blind edit. I had to put down blocks in random spots of the skin, and just guess where each part went. What I wanted to do is I wanted to make it kind of like a semi-HD Smith & Wesson 500 with like the compensators, the front black sight with orange spotting, etc. But it was just being a pain in the ass. I spent about 1,000 UC, maybe like 1.5k, just trying to figure out where the hell the UVs are. It gave me half of them, so I knew where the cylinders, the frame, and the grip were. I had to guess where the barrel, the sight, and miscellaneous pieces were, and it was just a fucking nightmare. But after getting through that, it was damn worth it. So I'm sorry I didn't cover specific techniques that I used for parts, like the gradient techniques and how to place down the UVs, so on and so forth, but I have a whole entire thread already listing these. What I decided to do in this video instead was just give you a glimpse of my process and hopefully help other people out on their skins. I don't have an outro. That's it.
Go,